Hey Last Drifters, this is Mac Dubs again with episode 2 of our UEFN beginner series. If you guys remember where we left off, we just really went over the basic controls, some of the different modes, key bindings for things like move, rotate, scale, etc. So yeah, today I think that we're going to kind of take a little deeper dive into the landscape mode, and then I'll also show you guys how to block off your map or your boundaries. Now, there's a lot of ways you can do this, but I'll show you a couple today. So first and foremost, you're going to want to go over to your landscape tab, and at this point, we won't even, here, I'll even go back here. I can delete these grid planes. Instead, we're going to utilize the landscape, and by default, it's at the same level, so you don't need to worry about that. And we'll keep it really simple. This is under the Manage tab, so say we've changed from selection mode to landscape mode. You can also hit Shift 1, 2, 3, 4 to go through these modes, but I usually just click up here. So yeah, we're gonna stay on landscape mode, and as you can see, we have a bunch of settings. You can import your own, you can create a new one, you can change the material that you might want to use for your landscape. They have a couple options already inherently. The size, how large you want it, the numbers of sections per component. So like this is an 8x8, but we can make the map larger by making, say, a 10 by 10, but yeah, so for now we're gonna stick with just 8x8, keep it simple. Our little Flush Factory little mess we've made here, and yeah, you can just go ahead and hit create. After that loads, you'll see it puts on the default material, and the cool thing about these materials in Unreal is they have height maps built in, so basically it senses how tall it is. So if you make it if you make a certain part of the map really tall, you see it automatically becomes rocky. We are in the Manage, that's how you make and edit your layers. Say you wanted to have one for water and one for a stream or something, and then one for the main landscape, or one for an underworld. That's what these layers would be for, so you can have different layers that you're editing, so it's not hard to edit multiple layers. We got the Sculpt, which this is going to be, mainly what you're going to want to use to create your landscape. Removing and adding land. So you're going to hold Shift and click to push down or take away, and then you're going to hold click to pull up. Now you can change the size, fall off. So if we don't want it to be so like in that kind of volcano style, you can make it much sharper. You can change the strength, how powerful it is. So, if I have it all the way up, boom, really strong, and it's just going to have a huge effect. The size, we're just really demonstrating here, but max size, you can really go. You're pretty much never going to want to have these two things maxed out. But, say you're making a mountain range, that can be a good way to just get you started a little bit and get you a good, say we want to block them off. Say we want to have this Flush Factory as the center point. We don't want them leaving. You can, this looks terrible, but you get the idea. And then say you go overboard and you want to just take things back, you pull out your Flatten Tool. Let me crank down these settings a little bit. And you can remove what you don't like. So say you want to add a point of interest here. You want to have a little, place where you fight enemies for your game or whatever. Then you can, just remove some of the mountains that you built. No big deal. None of this stuff is, final. It's pretty easy to edit and change. And then, you can go in and you can smooth things as well. So you can make these edges a little bit more natural, less jagged. It can usually lead to nicer looking landscapes because you won't have those weird little hidden corners and ugly looking zones, like something like that right there. Like if you were a player, you would see that you're trapped in a canyon and it doesn't really feel like you're stuck on a little island like you actually are. Instead, it feels like, oh, this world could be endless. And that's a important pillar of game design, is just making sure that, trapping the player without making them feel trapped, giving them the illusion of freedom. Now, if you wanted to, I don't want to go too off topic here, but if you wanted to, trap the player more literally, you have things, we're going to go back to selection mode here, that are, there's a tool for that, or a device. It's called the barrier device. If you type that in your content browser, you'll have this barrier device, and that is quite literally what it sounds like, a device that is a barrier. So you can change the settings to be, you can let whoever you want through this. If you want it to block only players or block NPCs, etc., you can do that, or creatures. You can change the size of it. You can change, if you want to. So say, for instance, we wanted to block this off in a literal sense. we do something like this. Yeah, I'm doing this very quick and it's not pretty, but you get the idea. And then boom, so we'd have a barrier, and then say, remember what we learned last time, hold Alt and drag, and that's how you duplicate. So we could go boom, and then we could hit E for rotation, hold Alt, drag, duplicate, and then we could move it down with W to move, and then again, Alt, drag, duplicate, and just like that, we could have a barrier surrounding our village. Usually you're going to want to use these and make them invisible and have that be a backup plan. You don't usually want to show them that they're blocked out of an area as best you can. Again, that's why things like the landscape tool are really helpful. And then you got things, so the ramp tool. This is something that at first I never used, and I don't know why. But this thing is awesome. This thing is goated. If you go and click, essentially, say you want to make a new ramp. So boom, I'll drop a ramp post here, and I'll drop a ramp post there. And I want the player to be able to, I want the landscape to go from here to there in a nice clean fashion. Like say you want a hill or a mountain or whatever. I can change the width. So I want it to be this whole area, a big grand thing. And the fall off, that's how, so this would be the center, and that would be raised to the points of the anchor points of the ramp. So essentially these two anchor points of our ramp is going to be, that will be the height inside the fall off zone. But the side fall off is going to be going down at an angle, like so. So we'll go ahead and add ramp, and you can see it starts high, but it falls off a little bit, which a lot of the time you want some fall off, because if you go like this, it just doesn't feel natural, is the word I'm looking for. And yeah, so another thing that's really helpful, and again, I'm doing this on a grandiose scale right now. In general, if you're going to want to be spending more time on this and doing more minuscule changes, but you can crank down these settings a little bit and get into the details a little more. Say you wanted to have a zigzag path that goes from here to here, and then boom, you get the idea. And then you would go back to our smooth tool, crank it down quite a lot. You could go through and give it a nice little smooth over so it's not jagged. And then just like that, you have a cool little trench system, and again, I'm building this with no purpose, but I think that it's important to show how these tools work, because you can use them in obviously a myriad of ways. And yeah, those are the ones that you're going to find yourself using by far the most. Now, I think we're going to end it on this episode here. We covered the basic tools. In the next episode, we'll pick up and we'll go into the erosion types and how to add noise and a little more realism to your map. We'll also cover the mirror tool, selection tool to mask areas, etc. So yeah, we will see you in the next video. I expect that in a couple days. Thank you guys, and let us know if you want any help in the comments or need any help on your games. Book a free call, and we'd love to give it a look.